So I'm going to try and attend to the script as best as I can, but with regards to maize, I askis. We do eat maize, the people that are sitting here in front, so that we can provide you with protein. So that's what I'll be sticking to. I'm going to skip a few slides because they'll be available to you in case you just need to go through them. So the structure of the presentation was going to focus on the vet services and the structure of vet services, which I will skip. Our legislative mandate, I'll touch on it a little. The national and provincial functions, I'll skip that. And then the One Health approach, I'll go into that, and then the zoonotic diseases. I'll skip this, but I think we are all aware that vet services is a concurrent function shared between the national department and the provinces, where the provinces, what's the English word? Carry out the functions, and the national office sets out policies and norms and standards. We are mandated by several pieces of legislation, the Animal Diseases Act, the Meat Safety Act, Animal Identification Act, Animal Protection, Performing Animals, and from these pieces of legislation, we then set up standard operating procedures, veterinary procedural notices, which are guiding documents to make the interpretation of the legislation easy. This is the structure of veterinary services at the national office, led by Dr. Mudisani, who is the Chief Veterinary Officer. And reporting to him is the Director Animal Health, myself, my brother in crime, Dr. Mulefe from Veterinary Public Health, and my other brother in crime. Those are the criminals, and I just drive their getaway car, animal production. And as I said, we set out the policies, and the provinces implement all of that. We also attempt to audit it with great difficulties because of the human resources challenges that we have. I'll also skip this one. And then all the information that with regards to controlled, or maybe let me take a step back to describe or explain the difference between controlled and notifiable diseases. In terms of the regulations under the Animal Diseases Act, we have a list of diseases that are controlled, where the state prescribes control measures should said disease be reported. We also have a list of notifiable diseases that are notified to the state, and purely because these are, or most of them are trade sensitive, for any trade export certification, we are required to attest area freedom, country freedom, premises freedom of most of these diseases. And then the status of other diseases, also there's the link and the database on the DALART website. You will see that it says www.old.dalart is because there's a new website, and there's the old website. If you struggle, please don't call me. I also don't understand the website since it added old. But Mazon will help you. So on the One Health approach, Mr. Google helped us define One Health. And basically, the only thing that I wanted to correct is that it starts with animal, and then human, and then environment. For obvious reasons, animals are more important than people. So we collaborate with our sister departments, the Department of Health, the Department of Environment, the laboratory, the faculty, And we also participate in what they call MNORT, the Multi-Sectoral National Outbreak Response Team, where all of these groups sit and any diseases of interest to all parties are discussed there. We plan responses together, we plan awareness together. So there's quite a bit of collaboration already going on. We also participate at the international level. We have the zoonotic outbreak reports that we report, and I wish we didn't have to make contact with the NICD, but unfortunately it has to happen. Things like rabies, rift, what other diseases? Dr. Mulumba disrupted my thinking. Welcome, Dr. We also have the different advisory committees within what we call the MINTEC, Ministerial Technical Group, composing of veterinary directors or chief directors of provinces. There's different groups. We have the rabies advisory, we have the brucella group, we have the TB group, and these groupings advise the chief veterinary officer of the country with regards to these diseases, their control measures, their presence in the country, and any other responses that we need to respond to. So with regards to avian influenza, we have currently reported and confirmed H5N1 in the Western Cape, in poultry establishments there, about maybe a month back. Fortunately, so far, we haven't had any of these reported in humans. There are some reports of human cases of H5N1, but not in the country. I've covered that last bullet. So that's the map that illustrates where in the country that H5N1 was reported. And this is in domestic poultry in layer farms. We also have cases that are reported in non-poultry, being wild birds. We conduct surveillance throughout the year in wild birds, and this is where the cases have been reported with different N types, but generally H5. Then there is Rift Valley fever, which we report sporadically once every 5, 10, 15 years, depending on the seasons, the vectors, and good rainfalls. It's a notifiable disease, not controlled, and we encourage livestock farmers, especially small stock, to vaccinate their livestock on an annual basis. We generally see the cases increasing as soon as people get comfortable with the fact that we haven't had an outbreak in X number of years. We stop vaccinating and then poof, it happens. The last cases were reported in 2018 in the Free State in sheep feedlot, and fortunately we managed to close that and we haven't had any cases since. Then another disease of interest is brucella, which is a controlled disease. And unfortunately, as you can see on that map, it is one disease that we really need to pay particular attention to. We have a veterinary strategy that was signed off in 2016, where brucellosis was agreed to be one of the model disease that we will be tackling together. We came up with a slogan, VET, for vaccination, so we are promoting vaccination using S19 or RB51, whichever one that you can get your hands on. Not vaccinating people, obviously, but vaccinating cattle. E standing for education, so we are going out on awareness drive and Mpho testing, where we are anticipating or wishing for 100% of stock in the country to be tested. And those that test positive, we are encouraging owners to slaughter those animals, because brucella is not curable. It's a lifelong disease, so the only cure is for the animals to be slaughtered, preferably at an abattoir where the necessary meat inspections would be conducted. We have TB, which is different from the people TB. It's a controlled disease. The picture looks a little better than for brucella, but it's probably also because of slowness on diagnostics. It's not, I don't think that we are doing as much in terms of testing for TB like we do testing for brucella, but at least the picture looks a bit better. And unfortunately, unlike with brucella, there's no vaccine, so the only control measure is quarantine, test, and slaughter. And I think because I said all of these diseases are zoonotic, I will not specify that they are zoonotic. And then we have rabies, which is my passion in life. When I get old and retire, I think I'm going to be a rabies champion, ambassador, something, with a fancy name. I think we all know that the WHO, the WHO, FAO, and GAC came up with a strategy to eradicate dog-mediated human rabies by 2030 globally. And that is because we all realized that rabies is kind of abundant, and at the same time it kills quite a number of people, especially children. In the country, we have a strategy to eradicate dog-mediated rabies by 2030, and each province has their own provincial strategies. There is a regional strategy, so everybody's putting their heads together to eradicate rabies in humans by 2030. And this is actually easily achieved if all of us who have dogs and cats can vaccinate our dogs and cats annually. Stop picking up strays. They are cute, but let's stop picking them up, especially in the coastal areas, as that map illustrates. These two areas are particularly seeing large numbers of cases of rabies. And I think by now we are sitting with 5 human fatalities just from January to May, one too many, and the majority of them being children. So this is another map of cases that have been reported from January 2021 to December 21. You'll see that the Eastern Cape at that point was still slightly calm. And COVID happened. We didn't do campaigns as we normally did. And then, poof, it happened. And we are sitting with the Eastern Cape, one of the hottest spots of rabies that we have seen in the country. I hope I covered the mandate. And if there's any further questions, I'll send them to Alicia and Dr. Mulumba.
Thank you, Dr. Maja. So one of the things that we were discussing is foot and mouth, African swine, and cystic fibrosis, which is very much linked to this industry. I don't know if you, Dr. Kluter, can maybe comment on where we currently are with those diseases, or is it a difficult question?
Why? Okay, let me, Yeah, foot and mouth disease is one of those diseases that in the last 3 years has gotten me some gray hair and dropped my height from, I used to be Dr. Mulumba's height, and then bang, it dropped me down. We had the first cases in the free zone in 2019, January. That was in the north of Limpopo in Vembe. We contained that. We actually thought we were done, and we even applied for a containment zone, but fortunately or unfortunately, we didn't get it from the OIE then, now the WUHA, World Organization for Animal Health. In November of the same year, we had another outbreak, again in Limpopo, in commercial herds. That was funneled, fueled, transmitted through auctions. Also, we contained that and we thought we were doing good. And then KZN happened. I'm not sure exactly how many cases we are sitting with at the moment that are open, but from KZN we had Northwest, which was not related to KZN, it came on its own from Limpopo. We still don't know how KZN happened, where it came from. Northwest, we know how it happened. It was cattle that were moved from Limpopo legally. There was an outbreak simmering which we did not pick up. So cattle moved out of the free zone of Limpopo to Northwest. From Northwest, the owner sold cattle, and then Free State, who else? Gauteng, Mpumalanga happened. I can now proudly or with excitement say that we haven't had any cases reported this year except for KZN. We are in the process of mopping those up. Unfortunately, KZN is a whole lot more tricky. We also have game reserves that we have picked up that are infected, so we need to recalculate what we are going to do with KZN. African swine fever, yeah, Johan is laughing. We used to have a good African swine fever control, not even strategy. We managed to somehow contain African swine fever in the northern parts of the country. The rest of the country was free. Since 2016, we've had sporadic cases that are now increasing annually. We've also, in surveillance, picked up tampons, which is the vector that transmits African swine fever, further south than the line that we had drawn up in the north. We picked up tampons in the Northern Cape. Also, surveillance done in warthogs in the Northern Cape picked up infection. So it has come, the sylvatic cycle has come much further down. We have cases all the way south to the Kapstadt. How it gets there, we can only suspect swill, given the communities that have been affected. Swill feeding in the country is actually regulated, it's prohibited unless you cook swill, and it's because of things like this that cost for it to be regulated. Before you feed swill, you need to cook the kitchen waste boil it for, I can't remember how long. And it's to inactivate viruses like ASF, FMD, PERS, whatever else that could be in the food. So that's it. There was 3 diseases. Oh yeah, cysticercosis. Yeah, that part of the world, fortunately or unfortunately, is not one that I deal with on a day-to-day basis. But the last time we tried to do surveillance on cysticercosis, it was a little difficult because the Department of Health could not disclose the cases for confidentiality reasons on the human side. We still do have cases in, I think the Eastern Cape is one of the areas that are heavily infected. Just as a side comment, when we had classical swine fever in the Eastern Cape in 2006-07, I think, we went in and we culled pigs. Quite a number of pigs were destroyed, both kept and free roaming and feral. The first complaint that we got from the community was an outbreak of flies, if it is an outbreak. But there was a huge complaint from communities, increased numbers of flies, because we took away the pigs, which ate people's number twos. So there was number twos everywhere and flies. So my story basically then talks to the cysticercosis cycle and how we complete it. Because of poor sanitation in some areas, we end up using bushes and stuff, and we have free roaming pigs, and we complete the cycle. Yeah, that's it.
Let's give a round of applause.